Hello, listeners of the Clandestine podcast.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's me, Gabriel, once again.
And Olivia.
Pleasure to have you.
Likewise.
We both keep showing up here at the same time. It's so weird.
I think you might be obsessed with me a little bit.
Well, that's for the next episode. I've got the pleasure tonight with bringing the story.
You sure do.
You wanna hear about it? You want me to tell you all about it?
No, I'm not in the mood right now.
Well, too bad, because I'm doing it anyways.
No, I'm excited. Let's hear it.
I got a pretty prolific individual to talk about today.
Okay.
This man goes by the name of Samuel Little. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
His crimes weren't so little. Wayo, just saying. Where was he born, you ask?
Where?
Let me tell you. He was born in Reynolds, Georgia, June 7th, 1940. And I just wanted to say, from last episode, I know, when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do mine.
That is weird.
A little weird. I feel like with a lot of these people, I'm not going to specify what he did, criminals.
Okay.
A lot of these criminals that get into these calamities, his home life was not good. He did not have a good home life. He quoted it to be violent and disturbing. His mother was a prostitute and had a non-existent father. So,
sex worker.
Sex worker, yes. His mother was a sex worker. Sorry.
My dad thought it was funny that I corrected you.
She's always showing me the right path with vocabulary. If you're out there listening.
He definitely is.
So, I mean, there's no evidence of this, but when he was questioned about his home life, he said he saw a lot of the sex work. It wasn't hidden. Being a child, he was, I'll say 5 years old, because I don't know specifically, but I know it was around 5.
Well, there's a difference, too, if she's being a sex worker out of his knowledge.
If she, left the house, and, if all of these things were happening in front of him, he recalls witnessing it.
Yeah,
the violence of it, the inappropriate nature of it. Georgia, him living there, didn't last long. Him and his mother moved to Lorain, Ohio.
Ooh.
Yeah. Where he said that he was primarily raised by his grandmother. It seems like his mom took him to Lorain, Ohio, and dropped him off at his grandma's.
Okay.
Made it seem, because she ended up going back, she ended up moving to Florida. So I think that's kind of what happened. She just didn't want anything to do with him.
Yeah.
It's not for a fact, but from what I've read, that's what it seems like. He grew up seeing, in his early life, the violence and chaos that comes with his mother's line of work.
Right.
Her being a sex worker. Later, he claims that he's had sexual fantasies about strangling women as young as being in kindergarten.
I don't know if I believe that.
That's what he said. Now, I will say this too. Doing research about this guy, he's very chauvinistic. He thinks he's the shit. Excuse my language, sorry, but that's just how it came out. You know, he thinks very highly of himself. Now, is he lying about that? Possibly. But why, at the same time, why would he lie about it? Yeah.
I don't know. Immediately when I heard that, I thought lies.
And he said that because when he was in kindergarten, when he was watching his teacher, touch her neck or adjust her necklace, he said that's what popped into my head. Now, I don't think he's lying either, because with that violence and chaos that was going on with his mother, there's a good chance he saw her being strangled.
I think the part that throws me off is the sexual element to it that young.
That is a good point, because of being that young.
I guess maybe I shouldn't have wrote it off completely.
And I understand. Maybe he just said sexual because him being older and asked about it, he's like, well, now when I think about it, it was sexual. Maybe he had the fantasy as a young kid of strangling, and it wasn't sexually based. And when he got older, was around a teenager, he was very interested in true crime.
Okay.
He had magazines that were about people that were being suffocated and strangled.
Ooh, fun.
So, I know I kind of threw a curveball, but yeah, he was into true crime, but not for the reason you and I enjoy it. Yeah. He was...
Yeah, he was looking for ideas.
He was looking for a career path. So, I think with this guy, I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but I felt pretty darn good about this. Cesar Lombroso said, "A criminal is born, not made." And I don't think that rings any more true than it does with Samuel Little.
I believe generally that serial killers are a product of nurture versus nature.
Really?
Yeah. I do think that both play a part.
Yeah.
Both are present.
Yeah, I think that being born into it is definitely a thing. But for what happens and the inherent evil.
Yeah.
That's why I made that statement.
I told Gabe earlier, I've heard the name Samuel Little before, but I really don't know much about what he did. There's like one tidbit that I don't want to say in case you say it later.
Yeah.
That I kind of remember from him, but it might also not be him.
He had problems in school, obviously. How are you going to grow up like that and just with no mental health treatment, anything like that, and just you have to be very lucky for things to just work out normally for you. There's going to be problems. He struggled in school, and about 16 years old, he ran into trouble for a B&E. He's breaking and entering.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I know. I put that in there just to like type quick, and I was like, I should probably put it in parentheses just so I don't forget. He was held in the institution for juvenile offenders, and you know this right here, him getting in trouble for this breaking and entering. I think this was also the start of, I just almost said Stuart Little, of Samuel Little's comfortability in prison and his like institutionalized mindset. And just like Samuel Little's freedom, his home was transient. You know, he moved around a lot, was always in different states. He was always on the move, was always getting in trouble. There was no stop to that. He didn't graduate high school. He ended up just kind of going through the motions. Around when he was 20, he moved to Florida with his mother. He didn't want to live with his grandmother anymore. He wanted to go to Florida. And he got a job as a cemetery worker.
Ooh.
Eerie.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. You need a job, but...
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Eerie.
Now, there's no proof of this, but he claimed he was an ambulance attendant, which I don't really understand.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. Put that in there, too, because I think it goes to show him talking himself up. After moving to Florida, he was later arrested in 8 different states for a myriad of charges, consisting of DUIs, fraud, like check fraud, stuff of that nature, shoplifting, solicitation, armed robbery, aggravated assault, and sexual assault.
Ooh.
I'm not going to say what it says on
we
here.
don't have to get into it.
Yeah. Him going in and out of prison like that, he said he was quite the boxer. He said he learned how to fight in prison.
Okay.
Referred to himself as a formed prize fighter.
Okay.
Samuel Little,
I believe him.
I mean, hey, if you're going to jail that much, you would probably...
I don't believe him. That was a joke.
No. These things he was getting arrested for, there was really no serious time he was doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't in there for 5 years, 10 years, maybe a year, and less than that. Another thing about him, he had a real, like, streak of luck. And I'm going to tell you about that right now.
Okay.
1961, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for breaking into a furniture store in Lorraine. Did his 3 years, got out in 1964. 11 years, so from the span of 1964 to 1975, he was arrested 26 times in 11 states for committing crimes, like the ones... I was
How do you even spend enough time in 11 different states?
and that's what I'm thinking, like how are you in prison that much? But he
in that many different places in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, like I said, it was all the other ones: fraud, assaults, armed robbery. I couldn't find any information on this, but he was arrested once for attack on government officials.
Like police?
No, because that would be assault of a peace officer or something.
Like the mayor?
Maybe beat the mayor's ass. So yeah, you know, Samuel Little was getting locked up all the time, beat up the mayor. So he didn't really do that. Once things started getting serious, though, with him, yes, of course he was in trouble a lot, but for him being in and out of prison that much, he was doing petty crimes,
right.
Realistically. Getting in fights, you know, just doing stupid stuff. But 1982 kind of stops that minor petty crime streak. He was investigated for the alleged murder of Melinda Rose Laprie in 1982. Even though the crimes start getting serious, I don't know if he walked around with the rabbit's foot in his pocket, because, I mean, from what I was reading, there was, like, significant evidence pointing him to that. And I will say, this was in the 80s, so for him to be charged with something like that, the odds were not in his favor. That's just the facts. But the grand jury that was on this case for him declined to indict him for murder. And as far as that, I wasn't able to figure out why. Seems like he's off the hook. He didn't get indicted for murder. That same year, a couple months after that Melinda Rose Laprie investigation, he was extradited to Florida for having ties with the murder of Patricia Ann Mount. The only witness for Patricia Ann Mount. It was a prosecutor's witness, claims that Little was with Patricia Ann Mount the night she went missing. Like, just said, oh, he was definitely with her that night. So, of course, with someone saying that, that's just mistrust on the witness testimonies.
Right.
So he was acquitted of both these murder charges in January 1984. So from 1982 to 1984, he's probably biting his nails like, oh, they're gonna get me for these murder charges. And he's fine. It was 2 years in and out of court, doing all that, because that doesn't... They tried 2 years, couldn't get him. But luck doesn't last forever in most cases. His newfound freedom, not having to carry these previous allegations with him, he took off to California, started a new life. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do it Little way. Little did he know that was not the case. In October of 1984, same year, he was actually caught and charged with kidnapping, strangling, and beating 22-year-old Lori Boros.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is she okay?
She survived.
Okay.
She survived. She was in critical condition, but she did survive, so that's really good. Got in trouble for that.
Did he get attempted murder?
No. In the time that he was being tried for this case with Lori Boros, he was found by the LAPD in the same place in his car where he assaulted Lori Boros with another woman who was unconscious, who he had also beaten and strangled.
Oh my gosh.
Guess how long he served for doing that?
Like 3 years.
2 years. Went 2 years.
Gosh.
So from 1984, October of 1984, 1986, he only did 2 years.
I hate that because it's like, that's attempted murder to me, and that should be just as bad as actual murder because you intended to murder them.
Yeah, I mean, the court of law though, they're going off specifics, and if it wasn't proved that way, then that just doesn't happen like that. Sadly.
Sorry if you guys can hear the fireworks going on. We're recording this on 4th of July.
So he did his 2 years, and he went right back to California. He was around San Diego area. From that time in 1984 up until 2012, he was like off the radar.
Whoa.
Yeah, like not getting in trouble, nothing. And he was arrested September 5th, 2012 at a homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky. He was caught with a crack pipe. Well, obviously, with his history and the forensic crime technology we have now, they're like, you're kind of definitely suspectable, whatever. Suspicious. You're suspicious. They were able to possibly connect him to these murders that were happening.
How?
From where he was when he was tried for his crimes.
Okay.
In the past, 1984, 1982.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, we're going to take your fingerprints. So like I said, they started doing DNA testing to establish that he was involved in some murders. There was a woman, Carol Eileen Elford, killed on July 13th, 1987. Guadalupe Darte Opadaka, killed on September 3rd, 1987. And Audrey Nelson Everett, killed on August 14th, 1989.
Oh my gosh.
All of these women were killed and later found on the streets of Los Angeles where he was staying. So they're like, hold on, this was where your residence was. You've got this background.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
We just gotta look into it.
We gotta figure it out. Once they started to do the DNA testing and his DNA showing up, they're like, okay, it's not looking good for him, right? So he was extradited to Los Angeles and he was charged January 7th, 2013 for those 3 murders. Okay. As he's charged this, a few months later, they're like, if he did this, we need to start seeing if we can pinpoint him to other murders. Around a little after January 2013, he was now being investigated with his involvement in 36 murders committed in the 80s.
Whoa.
12, 24, 36. Yes.
What?
Oh, yeah. That's what I said. I've never heard of this guy.
36 murders?
Yeah, 36.
Wow.
I truly think he was, in the worst way to say it, he was blessed with luck. So, of course, they were weary about it at first. But even with Melinda Rose LaPree, that case got reopened. Remember, he was tried for that, and the grand jury's like, no, he didn't do it, whatever. Well, they reopened that because they were like, well, hold on. If he killed these people, who knows if he did that or not?
But they can't retry him. It's double jeopardy.
It says they reopened the case. As they start doing all this, he started eventually giving confessions. He was involved in 93 murders of women across the U.S. in that time span.
Proven or just what he said?
And that's the thing. A lot of them were his confessions. So, he's tried for those murders of those 3 ladies that I was saying that were found in Los Angeles after they picked him up in Kentucky. This was September 2014, so they were in court for 2 years. Prosecutors presented that DNA evidence of him matching up at those crime scenes, as well as testimony of witnesses who were attacked by the accused at different times throughout his career. Eventually, September 25th, 2014, he was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On the day of that verdict, he continued to plea his innocence. There's actually a thing of him in court, and he's like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Where did he get convicted? In California?
Yeah. He's sentenced to life in prison. He knows he's not getting out. Now, when people get this life sentence, they just start confessing. It's weird because it's like, are they just saying this because maybe they think something's going to happen if they confess? Or the attention, or they think they're like a celebrity now.
Yeah, makes them more notorious.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a lot of confessions, obviously. There's 96 murders tied to this man. A couple I'll just kind of read off. I'm not going to read all of them. If you're interested in looking these up, by all means, do it.
Yeah.
So he's been down for about 4 years now. Because he got...
What do you mean?
He's been in prison, sorry. Okay. He's been in prison for about 4 years now. He confessed to the 1966 strangulation of Melissa Thomas. He was charged with that. Another one 4 days after that confession. This was November 9th when he made his first confession. And on November 13th, so 4 days after, he was also charged with the murder of Denise Christie Brothers in Odessa, Texas, after having confessed the crime to a Texas Ranger. So there was like this Texas Ranger that he was super close with in the prison. The guy got him to start talking. And they go in detail, all these people that he said he killed, that he strangled.
Is there any evidence linking him to these people, though? Or is it just his word?
Yes, and when I'm reading this, they're saying he's the most prolific serial killer America's ever had. On the FBI website, it says that on there.
Oh, wow.
The last confession was in November 2020. He confessed to 2 Florida murders, for one of which another man had been wrongfully convicted.
Oh, wow. So these
own up to it,
these confessions are credible.
Did die. Okay, he did.
Rest in distress.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, he was diabetic. He was in a wheelchair. He had a heart attack in prison. December 30th, 2020.
Wow, 2020? December 30th, 2020, you said?
So this was not really that long ago. As far as his victims, when you were asking, 60 of the 93 that he confessed were confirmed.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, this dude did some damage.
Wow.
He drew pictures of all his victims.
Because he couldn't remember their names.
He couldn't remember. There's a lot of
there's
a lot of Jane Does, people that they couldn't name. It's pretty disturbing. Like Tampa Dope Girl, he was into drugs,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these women, it's not confirmed, but I think they were sex workers. Where's the one I'm looking for? He wrote something really disturbing on the picture. I think it was this one. Okay, if you can see right there, that says Landmark 1987 Highway 5.
Okay.
That's where he dropped her body off. On the side of the highway. There's pretty much one where he says, like, dumped her in the trash. Like, he wrote it on the picture. So all these interviews are on here.
She's about tall. She was tall for a woman. About 5'8", 5'9", and she was pretty. A light-skinned, brown, honey-colored skin. And she was about 5. She was tall. She was tall for a woman. She was pretty. A light-skinned, brown, honey-colored skin. And she was about 5. She was tall. She was tall for a woman. About 5'8", 5'9", and beautiful shape. And she's friendly.
And how much do you think she weighed?
She had a beautiful body, a beautiful 150. Well put together.
And how old do you think she was?
She was about 30.
Okay. And she's a black female.
Yeah.
And tell me where you met her.
I met her in a nightclub in New Orleans. Her and her sister she had 2 sisters. Her and her youngest sister was having a birthday party. Her sister was dancing with this guy on the floor. And when I come in, the girl that I was with offered me to dance with me. And while we were dancing, she says, you want to go riding after this, after this party's over? We walked outside and she looked and seen my car at Lincoln. She said, ooh, that's a beautiful car too. So she had arm in arm, walking to the car. We got in, stopped at the gas station. We were on the Highway 10 and going toward Slidell. I seen the sign say Little Woods. Mm-hmm. So I took off the exit, went, and that sure enough was a road leading into the woods. And we went in and parked. So we finally got to where we were going, and it was by a bayou, a river, a little water thing, and the big, they had a machine out there in that little river.
Dredging?
Okay. I grabbed her by the legs and pulled her to the water. Mm-hmm. That's the only one that I ever killed by drowning.
Describe the location where she's left.
Okay, I left her with her head still there in the water, half her body in the underwater, and her thighs and legs on the bank.
I mean, he is telling this story like...
I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say about that.
It's disgusting. He writes on his pictures something woods, girl, and water. When he sketches these, he's...
Like, that's what they've been reduced down to.
Yeah. And all these videos very similar. Mm-hmm. He's explaining it like, man, here's a messed up thing. If he was talking about something else, I would be interested. I would listen to this guy because he almost seems wise or like charismatic with how he talks, and like almost welcoming. I saw him laughing and stuff. This guy's evil.
My gosh.
And I mean, he wasn't a bad looking guy, so I'm sure women wouldn't be like that opposed, I'm not saying he's drop dead gorgeous, but he wasn't ugly by any means.
Well, it's a control thing. It's not a matter of if you can get a date.
If you want this stuff on the FBI website, it's really interesting to look at.
Yeah, I mean, if you know anybody, too.
Yeah.
Go ahead and report that.
Yeah, exactly. And
a lot of these people are still unidentified.
This is a partial list of confirmed, and this is all suspected murder victims. Confessed to the murder of the following individuals. Provided sketches for 26 of them. They haven't been confirmed. All that. But look how long this list goes on.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Wait, go down. Little had a long-term girlfriend, Jean, since deceased, who supported them both through shoplifting. It's interesting when these people have long-term girlfriends or wives that they don't kill.
I know, right? Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
I was really excited to let you guys know about this story. If you ever want to tune in live, Saturday and Sundays on Twitch.
We post on the Instagram and Facebook when we're going live, so you can tune in.
Yes. Once again, thank you guys for the support. We're having a great time doing this, and it's really cool seeing everyone tuning in and showing support.
And big thanks for the comments.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone in the stream, too. I really enjoyed engaging with everybody. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, we'll see you next time.
And that's the Clandestine podcast signing off. Thank you, guys.
Do.